Yes, hello and welcome to another video. Today I'm a little bit late. My camera didn't work. I don't know why. I don't just know why. But anyways, nice I'm back here and nice to see you all and talk to you guys again about some few tips of the FIFA Agent Exam. My camera didn't just work. I don't know. But anyways, I'm here. Let's just crack on. Today we're going to be talking about the compliance. We're going to be talking about FIFA Clearing House and then try to see how it works and how it doesn't work. So most of you guys, I think the FIFA Clearing House also is one thing that many people don't actually pay attention to, but we're just going to brush over it today a little bit because we are not going to have a lot of much time. So we're going to a little bit speed it up and then explain into details some few things about it. Okay, I hope you all are doing good. I'm Gato Brian, again, FIFA licensed agent. If you are watching from somewhere, just leave your name, where you're watching from, and then welcome to the party. So I think anyone watching here is someone trying to write the agent exam. So you're welcome to chip in any question that you have. So I have some of my notes here that I'll try to check so that I give people also the right stuff for this FIFA Clearing House. So actually, so what we'll be looking at, we'll be looking at how training compensation is paid, how solidarity money moves across clubs, how FIFA tracks payment carriers from age of 12, and this system is called the FIFA Clearing House. All those things happen under the FIFA Clearing Houses, under the FIFA Clearing House. I'm going to explain how this works, and then we're going to really go from there. Okay. And then we finish up with answering those questions, those past questions. So the whole today is we're just going to finish the FIFA Clearing House because it's not that bulky, so it's just a little material. And in this, you just want to pick a little bit few basics here and there. As I said, most of the exam, you can get maybe a question or two here, but most of the exam will not be touching on this topic most often. But at least as an agent, you need to know this kind of stuff. So first of all, the FIFA Clearing House is an independent entity based in Paris, okay, that manages payment related to football transfers. So we all know that the FIFA Clearing House is a system that if you pay money, it passes through it so that there's transparency. Let's put it that way. Its main role is to ensure that money from transfer reaches the correct training club. So if you train a young player and you need training compensation, then your club needed training compensation, is paid through the FIFA Clearing House. So it acts as a financial intermediary. So that's just the main thing. Before before this system was set up, you understand that probably there will be difficulties in clubs paying other people who trained young academy players. But this time, everything passes through the FIFA Clearing House, and it's quite hard for there to be, let me say, bribery or whatsoever. So that's why it came into effect, so that when you pay the money, it passes through the club, it passes through FIFA Clearing House, and everyone can see. So the FIFA Clearing House exists to protect core objectives of the transfer system. Okay, so include one. So let's look at what the FIFA Clearing House protects: protecting contractual stability between players and clubs. Okay, yes. So that is one. Encouraging youth development. So when as I said, when the training compensation is paid or solidarity mechanism, everything passes through FIFA Clearing House. That's the main rule. So promoting also solidarity between elite and grassroots clubs, protecting maintaining competitive balance, ensuring fairness in competitions. Of course, it also helps to prevent fraud, which is the main thing that they want to see a transparency when money is paid from another club to another. So this is something like, I can say, like financial transparency. And also you can track training rewards globally. So let's take, for example, if club A paid a money from a club from Africa or Europe paid the money to a club from Brazil. So to Brazil. So you can track all those things through FIFA Clearing House, and it's easy to see from there. So that's why the FIFA Clearing House exists. So, and it's one of the FIFA Clearing is one of these things that, as I said, you're not going to get a lot of questions coming on this topic, because as an agent, as I said, as an agent, the main role of an agent is that it comes from the FFAR and the RSTP. So the things like ethics code, of course, those are rules and disciplinary things governing the game. But those are things that if you don't, let me say, commit a crime or you don't do something, you're not really going to be involved in it. Let's put it that way. But things like transfers, you agent, you're always going to be involved in it. Transfers and a lot of things, you're going to be involved in it. So you're going to be at the forefront of it. So that's why, and transfer comes, you see it under the RSTP, you see your job as an agent under FFAR, because that's where most of the things that it talks about you. So that's why it's very important to also touch on those topics. But we're not studying those topics now, but I just want to emphasize that most of the time you won't be seeing a lot of questions from this. So key system that makes the clearing house work. For the system to function, FIFA relies on several digital tools. So that is like the electronic player passports. So this is one of the most important concepts for the agent. So I think most of you guys know what we call electronic player passport. So it's a digital record of player that you register all the player history from the age of 12th birthday. So that's what we call electronic player passport. So it registers all your record from the 12th birthday. So if you think of what we were talking about, the training compensation, when is training compensation paid? Training compensation is paid when you are Training compensation is paid when you are from the age of 12 to 21, and then solidarity mechanism is paid when you are from the age of 12 to 23. So now you start seeing that for those things to be paid, there's something that has to track that, okay, these things are paid. This money is paid to the club, the formative club, the club will train the young player, and that is called training. That is the FIFA Clearing House. So if this system was not put in place, then probably, let's give an example. You might hear a team will be waiting for his training compensation and may wait for long. But now, because the rules and regulation, FIFA can always check that when the transfer happens, you have to take this amount of days to pay training compensation to the club who train the player. So all those things are now put in the system, and they help. The FIFA Clearing House is a big thing for that. That helps in that. So this includes all clubs. I was just giving you the the electronic player, the electronic passport, player passport. I was just trying to give you the definition. That is a digital registrar that registers a player's information from his 12th birthday, and this includes like all clubs that he has played for, or she has played for. So if the player played from whatsoever academic from his 12th birthday, is going to be registered, because he's going to receive any club that the player moves from. His former clubs are going to receive training compensation based on that. So even it also includes player status, whether you're amateur or professional, it doesn't matter. It also includes whether you're transfer loan or permanent. It doesn't also matter. Category of the club, whether it's category 4 club, whether it's category whatsoever, it doesn't also matter. So the document determines which clubs receive training compensation. So this is why it's easy to have this EPP. It informs that, okay, this club trained this player for this specific time. This club did this for this time. So that's where it's easy now to allocate those training compensation, to say, okay, this amount of money goes to this other club, this amount of money goes to the other club. So it's as easy as that. So now let's look at the FIFA Connect system. Member association must use the digital connected system connected to FIFA electronic player registration system, domestic transfer system, FIFA connected ID transfer system, the transfer matching system. I think we all know this. This ensure that player data is actually put correctly. So all these things I mentioned in there, things that they call it FIFA Connect system. You use it so that at least every data is fused, so that everyone involved to check your information can find find it in the right place. So let's look at when training rewards are triggered. Training rewards are triggered when certain events happen. So I think let's go a little bit as well. So talk of registration as a professional player. So this is like training compensation. When is training compensation triggered? It's triggered during, let me say, when you sign your first professional contract. When a player signs his first professional contract, training clubs may be entitled to compensation, and the registration must be reported to FIFA within 30 days. And this is made through FIFA Clearing House. Okay, so that's the use of it. The payment is made through FIFA Clearing House. Okay, now let's look at international transfer. When a transfer between an association, the transfer also enter into the transfer matching system. So when there's a transfer happening between two, let me say, association, it can be the association of, let me say, Portuguese. Let's give an example: Portugal, and let's look for, let's say, Senegal, Portugal, Senegal. Let's just give something like that. So everything has to be registered and will be found inside the transfer matching system. And also the system is automatically checked whether training rewards are available. So it's easy. So now let's look at national transfer with compensation. If a player moves between clubs in the same country and money is involved, the domestic transfer system must report it. So this is also like, let's take for example, people play in the Premier League. This we can say if a player moves from Manchester United to Liverpool or whatsoever club it might be. So there's also a transfer matching system, domestic transfer matching system, that everything is registered so that you can find the information of the player there easily. So that if there's anything happening, then they know every details. So now let's look at electronic player passport review process. So once a training reward trigger is detected, transfer matching system creates a provisional electronic player passport. So this is how it goes. So let's take, for example, you said let's say a player signed for a professional club. Okay, and once it's noticed that training compensation is triggered, there's now an electronic player passport created. And then next, clubs and association have 10 days to inspect this, let's say, this electronic player passport creation. The clubs and the association will take 10 days now to check, okay, is every details right, all those kind of information. If a club believes it should be included in the training club, it can request inclusion. So let's take, for example, a player signed a contract worth, let's say, 1 million euros, and then 1 million, and then let's say now the training clubs that benefited are the previous. No, I don't want to say. Let me give another good example. Let's take, for example, when a player moved to a club, then his parent, the clubs that were training him before, had to receive training compensation. Then now, if there's a club that thought that he is not included in that deal, he can also request that if the club's name was not, but you have to request that with backing. I think one of you make mention of something the other time that about private academy, something like that. But now, if you feel you have information that you registered that player who is now a professional under your academy, you have to bring that registration proof and let it see whether that player actually, and then they will try to figure out why the player is not on the transfer matching system. Why is the player, or why was the player not registered also in the association? So they are saying also that, so in this case, if a club feels that he needs to be included to get a training compensation, the club can request that. Then FIFA then opens the electronic player passport review process lasting 15 days to check whether does that club merits to receive training compensation of the player who has just been transferred. And during this review, registration data can be corrected if they found that, okay, that club merits to get a transfer to get compensation. And then the club also can upload this evidence with contracts offer. Everything can be verified. And now let's look at final electronic player passport decision. After the review process, the FIFA General Secretariat decides the final electronic player passport. If the case is legally complex, the issue is referred to dispute resolution chamber. So let's give an example here. So let's take, for example, the club that if the club was requesting to get a training compensation and it becomes a complicated case that probably they have checked the electronic player, they have checked everything in the system and they see that that club doesn't merit to receive any training compensation because these are things that happen. Then now it will be taken to the dispute resolution chamber. And you will remember we spoke about dispute resolution chamber under uh, football tribunal because it's one of the other football tribunal. These are the kind of things it handles. So these are the things uh, clubs will now follow up because in certain cases, most of the time, these things happen that you have a player, and this thing only happen. Let's take for example, you have a player, and the player is not registered in the association, or the club, you have that player, but you take the player to register in the association. It doesn't. Then something happens. The player is not registered. This is where there can be a problem. But most of the time, it's rare because even if you're not registered under the association, you're not going to play league games, except there must be something happening behind the scenes. So, and clubs can be very frustrated. Let's take, for example, that particular player moves on to sign, let me say, a million contract, and then they are thinking that, okay, this is our chance to benefit. We train this player. Then they go into the system to check. Then they check into the system and discover that the time the player passed at the club, let's take, for example, maybe the player passed at the club between the age of 15 to 17. It's not registered into the system that the player passed at the club. So this is where disputes start to happen because clubs now start to follow. Then they have to go now to the dispute resolution chamber if needed to actually look at this situation to solve it. Okay. Hope you can understand what I'm saying. If I'm too fast, just let me know. I hope my pace is not too fast. Ameo, okay, watching from France. Okay, nice to meet you and welcome back again. Watching from France, yes. Okay, as I said, if you're just watching from somewhere, you can always drop in where you're watching from. But nice to know that you are back again. Today we started a little bit late. My camera didn't just work. I don't know why. But anyways, I'm here. Luckily, I'm here. Well, today we just want to, as I said, for those coming back now, probably you're going to watch the beginning. But today we're talking about the FIFA Clearing House, the rule and the use of the FIFA Clearing House, which is a small topic and will be coming under. When your connection is unstable, please wait while we reconnect. Why is my connection unstable? Okay, it's back. So, but as I was saying, the FIFA Clearing House is not one of those things that you actually be getting a lot of exam things coming under. No, it's just one of those things that at least you need to have an idea of it. Yeah, you need to have an idea because you can get one or two questions there, but I don't think you should be. If I'm like how I told the people I was teaching last year, I don't think the FIFA Clearing House is one of those things that you should really go focusing every day reading it. No, you're not going to really gain a lot of things from it. What you should be reading more, of course, you should have a glance of it and have an idea that because they can ask you that the rule of FIFA Clearing House, they can ask you those kind of things and how money is paid through. How does money work? How money passes through FIFA Clearing House? What is they can ask you a few questions on that, but it will not be something that you get more questions. And as I said last time, that early in the beginning, that for to pass the exam, the FIFA exam, there are like things that you can. Let me say the RSTP. I can guarantee you sure that you get like more than 5 questions from the RSTP. That's sure because the RSTP and the FFAR, that's just an agent. Okay. So I cannot really, I have to emphasize that that's just an agent because the work of an agent is to involve in transfer, manage your player, look after your player, negotiate, do all those kind of those things come from the RSTP and the FFAR, which FFAR is FIFA Football Agent Regulation. So I call it in short how we call it. Then RSTP, I think we all know regulation status of transfer of players. So most of the time, questions come from these two topics a lot. But now, of course, you're going to get questions like of safeguard, because FIFA also values that one is very important for the safeguard of minor, how to protect minor. So those things are things that you can get a few questions from. Also, you can get questions from things like from ethics, the ethics code, the disciplinary code, the FIFA statutes, all those things. But majority of your questions is going to be coming from the RSTP and the FFAR. So we did those two topics already. So I'll emphasize if Shay Matthew watching from Nigeria. Okay, say welcome Matthew. I think this is your first time here. Nice to have you on board. So if you have any question, you can always drop by. But apart from that, you're welcome. So those are the few things that you get. I mean, those are them. You get more of these questions from the RSTP, and keep an eye on that. So because I think now it's one month, you have 1 month, some few weeks, or is it a week to write the exam, because you write on the 28th. So let's say 1 month, 2 weeks, if we just say that. But anyways, your focus should be on that. Before you want to step into that exam hall, you must have known how the RSTP, a lot about the RSTP, about the FFAR. Then you look into topic like football tribunal. I think also most of the time, let me say, if I talk about the football tribunal just here, you should be able to know just legally, just normally, that the football tribunal, what is it? It's something that solves problems. You have at football tribunal, it consists of what? Is it the agent chamber, the dispute resolution chamber, and player status chamber? You should be able to be just having an idea of those things, and then you start going out. But what does those things do? What problems do they solve? Then you look at FIFA Clearing House. It's just general something that, apart from me explaining even deep, you know that, okay, this is a system that FIFA makes so that when money passes, it should be transparent, that people see, because that's the main function. People see that training compensation leaves from this club, or anything happening with money leaves from here from point A to point B. That's the work of FIFA Clearing House. So you should know that when it involves this kind of money moving from a club to another club, it passes through FIFA Clearing House. So have an idea of that's how it functions. Then when you start talking of the statutes, the the ethics code, disciplinary code, you know that it's starting to do with rules and regulation, sanctions, fines, warnings, and ethics, moral conduct, and everything. So you should be having a little bit of general picture this thing, so that if you have a general picture, so when the question comes, you automatically know that when it comes to certainty, you know that, oh, this thing might be under ethics code, this thing might be under this thing might be under. So you give yourself a little bit of leeway so that you can try to find the answers and everything like that. Is very important if you have a basic idea of this. Okay, so let's move forward a little bit. Okay, let's look at what we call did I skip any place? Let's see. Okay, how money actually moves. How the money actually moves. Let's say once FIFA electronic player passport is confirmed, the FIFA Clearing House send a request to pay them to the new club. So let's take, for example, once, let's say, training compensation let's say when the club has to receive training compensation and everything is confirmed, now the FIFA Clearing House send a request to pay to the new club. The new club must pay the full amount within 30 days. So let me say the club paying to the clubs that the player was from that train, you will have to pay the amount within 30 days. And if the club is late, it must pay an extra 2.5% administrative levy. Okay, these things, I don't know, they are a little bit more deep now, but anyways, it's just to have an idea. If I was you, I'll put it like, if FIFA Clearing House, let me say, if that money is not paid within 30 days, then there's always an extra 2.5% administrative levy. So it's just to have a little bit of idea of how things happen. Okay, let's look at questions. I think the questions will be quite, but let's look at questions. They're quite just not too lengthy. The questions are not too lengthy like the other questions, but we can at least look at a few questions on this. So question one, which entity acts as an intermediary for payment of training rewards in the football transfer system? Okay. A, the FIFA Disciplinary Committee. B, the FIFA Clearing House. C, the Court of Arbitration for Sports. D, National Association. So we all know that is the FIFA Clearing House, as I explained to you people. So the question of which entity acts as an intermediary for payment of training rewards. So just by interpreting that question, which entity acts as uh, where you get payment? Let's put it that way. The question is which entity acts as an intermediary for payment of training rewards? So is the FIFA Clearing House, as I explained earlier. And question two, where is the FIFA Clearing House legally domiciled? So Zurich, Paris, no, A, Zurich, B, Paris, C, Geneva, D, London. So it's B, as I explained to you people earlier, that it's from it's in Paris, FIFA Clearing House. Question three, the electronic player passport contains registration information starting from which age? I think we spoke about this, the age of 12, because it contains reward. So it's from the age of 12. So let's look here. A, 10, B, 12, C, 14, D, 16. So the answer is B, 12. So just to touch a little bit on that, I think people, why the age of 12? Because they said the FIFA Clearing House starts, let me say, when training compensation is paid. If you know the definition of training compensation, it's paid when from the age of 12 to the age of 21. And also another reward that also the FIFA Clearing House take charge of is also solidarity mechanism, which is also starting from the age of 12 to the age of 23. So the right answer there is 12. So this can be one of the questions that you might face, like the electronic player passport contains registration information starting from the age of. So just remember, don't go and put 14, put 12, is 12. So how long do member association have to communicate a first professional registration to FIFA? Good. I think I spoke about this. How long again? I repeat. How long do member association have to communicate a first professional registration to FIFA? We spoke of 30 days, if you remember. Yeah. And A, the answer is A, 7 days. B, 15 days. C, 30 days. And D, 60 days. So it is C, 30 days. Question 5. How long is the inspection period for a provisional electronic player passport? How long is the inspection period for a provisional electronic player passport? So A, 5 days, B, 10 days, C, 15 days, and D, 30 days. D is 10 days. Again, just to emphasize on this, if these things are a little bit challenging for you, most of the time what you can do is, as I said, I always say here is during your spare time, just try to hang around or put something like an earphone and play this audio, what I'm saying, where you can just listen on your YouTube. It helps you that you listen to those things like an audio. For example, like these questions and answer that I'm doing, it will be better that sometimes you just get an idea of it regularly. If you're just playing it and just listening and saying, okay, because these dates are very important. But most of the time, it's difficult to go to read these dates. So if you already know how long, let's take, for example, the last one we say 30 days, you need to know those things off head a little bit. If you can rehearse it once a while, it will be nice because when study, you are not going to read all those things all completely. We all know that because the exam is bulky, especially for people who started late. Because I think I always said if you start early is nice, to be honest. If you started like 3 months earlier or whatsoever, then it's nice because you have time to, let's say, go through the RSTP, go through other topics gradually, then you can ease yourself and then have time to start studying other topics. But if you start late, then now you need to start looking like, a you need to focus on certain things a lot, be more structured. Because just take for example, if you, there are some topics that are very lengthy and long, and then you need time to be able to study those. You need time to be able to study those materials and pass. I have a question, sir. Where is the exam taking place? Which country? Can the exam be done online? Yes, the exam is online. It's an online exam. It's an online exam. You register. You register on your association. Let's take for example, if you come from Ghana, Nigeria, Senegal, England, Britain. This year the exam is taking place at your. You just have to sit at your home and write the exam, but on a laptop. But the thing is that now it has an invigilator. You have things that when you register for the exam, then FIFA is going to put you through the. You have your invigilator camera. For example, when you're writing the exam, there will be a camera. There'll be your camera here. There'll also be a camera behind that sets to see the whole room, because you'll be taken in a quiet room that can see that when you're using your laptop, you're just focused on this, whether there's no one around you, and it will also be in a quiet place. So those are the things that you have to do to register. I mean, to write the exam, to show that the exam is approved. So let's say the camera invigilator, if the camera invigilator dictates someone that someone is there helping you, let's just give an example like that, then you're not going to the exam, you're going to be disqualified. So that's why you have another camera invigilator trying to check to see through the room that no one is there, you're just in that room writing the exam yourself. So but it to answer your question, it's written at your own location, whether you want to write in a school or in a library or at your home, but that place need to have certain conditions that you need to read those conditions as FIFA stated. It has to be quiet, it has to be a place that the exam can be taken freely, and they can monitor you that okay, you are there in a safe place writing yourself and no one is there assisting you whatsoever. Yeah. But this is the second year this is happening, and last year it was quite hard. It was hard. It was hard. So they had an 18 point something percent, which was the lowest the exam has ever had, if I'm not mistaken. And the reason was this because it was a new system and it was challenging. Because the system didn't really also help also. So our advice, if you're going for the exam this year, most of the candidates that failed the exam is just also they had a luck with the system, not knowing what to do, not knowing how to. So not knowing how to manage the system. So you have to start already thinking ahead of that so that you don't face challenges. Because I had a few couple of people saying that the exam was challenging due to the system setup. It's not like in the old, like when we wrote in 20, like when I wrote in 2024, it was more of like I didn't have to anything to do with the system. I just had to travel to, let's take for example, I live in Finland. I had to travel to the capital of Finland, Helsinki, and there was a place there that was arranged by the FA, Finnish Football Association, that we just have to come there. And then we were being asked uh, if you can bring your own hotspot, your own internet, but if not, we were provided internet from, actually, we were provided internet from the center. But if you feel that you have an internet which is not from your phone, then also you can use the internet. Then you have an examiner. You just be with your laptop as I'm speaking in front of you. You have an examiner. The examiner turning around the room, writing and everything. But you people are all in one location, just like a general exam. How people write. That's how it was done. But from last year, FIFA changed this rule because it was being said that there's a lot of traveling. People are traveling from different cities to order to write the exam, and it was challenging. Yeah, when I don't live in Helsinki, which is the capital. I live in the north of Finland. So but I used to travel to Helsinki. And from where I live to Helsinki by train, I used to take a train. It used to take 6 hours, 6 hours something. It's not even the 6 hours, but because you when you're writing a certain exam like that, you want to pass, you want to really be focused. So I used to always leave. I would leave earlier. I would leave the previous day because I have a friend who live in Helsinki. We'll just catch up. We used to play football together in a team. So when I go, I will just visit him, spend the night there. Then Normally in Finland, the exam was always around 1 p.m. So then at 1 p.m. I'll go and write. Then the next I take my train coming back to the north of Finland. So that's how I did when I wrote the exam. But I didn't face this. But of course, I know the system because I also have friends who have been trying to write and ask, and also seeing how it has been going. It's also challenging for them because they are saying that if they knew, they would have passed earlier, because now things are getting challenging. And also the difficult part of the exam is you just write the exam once. When I wrote in 2024, who was the last time that you could write the exam twice? If I didn't make it in, let's take for example, was it May? I could write again in June. No, not June. Sorry, I could write again in November. So it was that you had two sessions most of the time at the beginning stage of the exam. But I think now FIFA is trying to, I don't know, limit the entrance. I don't know, limit a lot of people entering, because there are a lot of people queuing to write now to become an agent, and rightly so, because the system is regulated. And that's also one thing that FIFA is looking also to make it more better, because now, before, it was an industry that wasn't regulated. People just managed people for, let me see, before your father could manage you as a player, like how you saw Neymar father was managing him, and people's parents had, they didn't really know the rules and regulation, but they managed their son because they could just sit and say, well, it's my son, I can do what I want with him. But by then also there was a lot of challenges also, because it's not, there was less professionalism in the industry. So that is where these rules and regulations started to come, that okay, the beginning of 2023, that no, they have to be rules, and they have to be, anyone who have to be an agent must write an exam. So, and those who were all agents, they had also some checkups to go through. But apart from that, from 2023 started, you must write the exam to become an agent. If not, you are not an agent. And now also, I always hear this case, like I try to also advise agents online or players. I always hear this case. People say a young player complains that there's an agent who took him to somewhere, and then out of a sudden, it's not an agent. He has lost money. But I think there's also lack of information. That's why I feel like, because now, to be an agent, or to always verify that you're an agent, FIFA has made it more easier. You just need to have that agent. You just need to have that agent's ID number, and then you open the FIFA website and verify. You're going to see all his details. So let's take for example, if I was managing a player, the first thing the player will be I advise all players that the first thing the player will be asking is, can I have your after conversation? Can I have your license number, so that, yes, and it's my regulation and it's my duty to be able to give him, so that he sees if I'm an official agent or not. Because in the industry, sometimes someone might fail the exam because the exam is very challenging. Sometimes someone might fail the exam a lot. But again, then the person now takes it to, like, okay, I'm just going to talk to players that I am an agent, since players don't know how to verify who is an agent, who is not an agent. Yes, because majority people don't know that, where to verify. And even most agents also don't even know how to verify that. But now I think it's quite clear that at least FIFA has made it that on the platform, there are places that you can go, take an agent ID number, and then you just type it, and then you see his information, his name, the when he started managing. I mean, when he was an agent, and if he's and if he's authorized to manage, is it a minor or not a minor? Because as an agent, as I mentioned earlier, if you pass your license, you're not authorized to manage minor, unless you do the CPD requirement. That's a continuous development program. So when you pass your license, that's also another program you need to do also on the FIFA website. But that is not an exam, so you can do it at your own pace. So that one is just to complete certain reading task. It's task that have been given there, and it talks about your rules and regulations as agent, what to do, and then you get the credits on it. Then after that, you complete the task, and then FIFA, and information will come from the platform that, okay, now you are officially registered to manage minor. So that's how it goes. Let's move on to those questions again. Let's continue. We ended in situation, how long do member association have to communicate a first professional registration to FIFA? And we said it was 30 days. So now question 5, how long is the inspection period for a provisional electronic player passport? How long is the inspection period? Did we also speak about that? Okay, A was 5 days, B was 10 days, C was 15 days, and D was 30 days. So remember, inspection period is 10 days. Okay. And then the other one, which is, so don't confuse, how long do a member association have to communicate a first professional registration to FIFA? That one is 30 days, but the inspection period is 10 days. So question 6, if the new club fails to pay the requested amount within the deadline, what administrative levy may apply? So let's take, for example, a new club has to pay the training compensation, then he doesn't pay within, let's say, 30 days. He doesn't pay within that 30 days. So what administrative levy may apply? We spoke about this already. So A, 1%, B, 2.5%. If you remember, it was 2.5%. C, 5%, D, 10%. It was 2.5%. Question 7, which FIFA body decides complex dispute related to electronic player passport? We also spoke of this also. A, ethics committee, B, appeals committee, C, dispute resolution chamber, which is C, dispute resolution chamber, and D, FIFA council. The answer is dispute, but apart from that, also, it just made me to know that some of you people, these are also things that FIFA can ask. What's ethics committee? No, okay, that one is a little bit easy, but they can ask something involving ethics committee or appeal committee, FIFA council. What is FIFA council? So those are little things that sometimes you just need to have a little bit of definition on of them. So question 8, what document instructs the FIFA Clearing House to distribute training rewards? Okay, A, payment confirmation, B, allocation statement, and it's B, allocation statement. And just to talk of the allocation statement, sometimes they ask the question, what's allocation statement? Then they might come up with, like, a document which instruct FIFA Clearing House to distribute training rewards. B, they give other answers. C, they give something. So those are things that you need to familiarize yourself. That's how the exam is always the setup of the exam. They try to ask you few things, but again, don't spend too much of your preparation time on the FIFA Clearing House and all those things. You still have to spend time to get few, but the thing that I said as advice again, do not go into the exam without knowing a lot about the RSTP and the FFAR. Like, you're not going to pass for sure, because you remember the exam. I said 40 majority, like most of the time, 40% of the question comes from the FFAR. So if you are writing an exam and 40% comes from FFAR, then most of the time 30% comes from the RSTP. That's 70%. Okay, which means 5%. Which means if you get those 70% right, of course it's red, you have all those things. But I'm just giving an example. If you get those 70% right, and then which means you have 5% more, which is from somewhere. But if you go to the exam, let's say not knowing the FFAR, I'm not sure you are going to pass the exam for sure. Yeah. If you go into the exam not also knowing the RSTP, so you should be able to know things happening as an agent. Let me say, a lot of things happening as the question of an agent. Let me say, like, what an agent does. Okay, those things are very, very important for you as an those things are very important, that you at least get grasp of those things, because those are the things that those are where questions will come from. Question, let's see. The exam is 100% online. Yes, as I said, the exam is 100% online. Yes, online. It's an online exam that you sit and you write from your home or wherever you want to write. Yeah, just a moment, guys. Let's see. Yes, I was just trying to check some questions and see. Yes, as I was saying, do not go into the exam. That's without knowing those two topics. If not, if you're giving you're giving yourself already a chance to fail. That's the thing. You're giving yourself already a chance to fail because it's not going to. You're not going to make anything from it. And also, another thing I also spoke also is try to know the structure of the exam, what is coming, what to expect from the exam. Don't because the best way to always prepare for an exam is to already go into that room knowing what you are expecting. That's quite go into that room knowing that how a question can come like this, and this is how the setup is. The most challenging thing is that you go into an exam and then you have no idea of what the question is or how the format is. So what I'm just trying to say is try to read a lot of past questions. It's going to make you familiar with how the exam is set up. Okay. Let's see. Okay. I was trying to find some questions here for you guys. And lastly, some guys make ask me some questions. I think I don't know if they're present today, but I gave them those questions. I don't know if they're present today. Two people asked me some questions, and I sent those questions to them by email. The questions I don't know if they're present today, but anyways, I just wanted to find out if they got the questions. It was the questions of last Friday. I think last Friday when we're doing the okay, great. Yes, when we're doing there was another person also when we're doing the session for last Friday. And how did you find the question? Did you go through the question again? And how was it? Was it challenging when you answered by yourself? Was it, or how was it? How did you feel about the question? Because most of those questions are questions that if you could answer them, then at least regularly, or most of those kind of questions, then that's nice. It shows that you're at least you're preparing. You're, and what I used to do with if I have questions like that, let's take for example, if I read these questions, then can I try to find those questions based on just locating them on the study materials, because you're going to use the study materials on the exam day. But what you do the study material, you know everything is on the laptop. You're going to open the study materials on your laptop like that. But yeah, but when the exam is set, you know what we always call when you're writing an exam, there's something they always call save exam browser. So there's also like a monitor on your computer, those kind of things, that the amount of pages you can open. And let's look at question 9. What was question 9? Was it a party that fails to compliance assessment become a party that fails the compliance assessment become what? A suspended party, non-compliant party, restricted party, or investigated party. I don't know if I told you about this, but anyway, it's a non-compliant party. I don't know if I spoke about this during the lecture part. What system generate the provisional electronic player passport? So what system? I think we spoke about this, the TMS, which is a transfer matching system. So That's actually all about the FIFA Clearing House, if you want to look. So it's really something that is short and it's not too much. It's not too much. It's not really that bulky. Let me look at. Guys, just a moment. Let me look at some questions under this in the FFAR. Give me some time. Let me see. Let me check this. Okay, let's look at something here. Becoming an agent and acting as an agent. Yes, those are the things that they really concern you. Becoming an agent and acting as an agent. Let's say okay, let's see. Let's see how this goes. Okay, well, we just skipped a little bit to look at the FFAR. That's, you have a question here. It could be time consuming to read and interpret them. What do you mean? Do you mean what do you mean? The questions or what? Can we get more questions from the FFAR and RSTP? Yeah. You're going to get more questions. I'll just check some questions from the FFAR. Let's see. Okay, let's look at questions from the FFAR. So let's take, for example, they ask, what must a natural person do to become a football agent? So now you're a natural person and you're trying to become an agent. So let's just make it, because let's understand it. Let's make it more basic so that at least you get the idea. So they say A, be nominated by a club. B, submit a license application, meet eligibility requirement, pass the exam, and pay the annual fee. Okay. So you see, those are the process you're going to go. So B is right. C, be recommended by a national association. That's wrong. D, work for a club for 2 years. So no, the answer is B. So, which is for you to be, for a natural person, which you're a natural person, to become a football agent, you must submit a license application, which you have submitted. Then you must meet eligibility requirement, which you have met and you're ready to write. Then now you're in the process of waiting to pass the exam, which is pass the exam. And then after now, you will pay the annual license fee. So that's the process completely for a natural. Because when you pass the exam, then you have this process that now, when FIFA just tell you, congratulations, you have passed the exam, it will appear on, it will come to your email, the email that you have registered. It will come to your email. Once you open that email, you have to listen. It's either congratulations on the subject or unfortunate, those kind of messages. Anyways, congratulations, you passed the exam. Then now immediately they'll send you a place that you click to go and pay $600. So also writing the exam, you need to be prepared to have that you pay a fee of $600. That's $600 now will be for 1 year, complete year. Then now after, so I'm just trying to give people the process, how it happens. So after you've paid that $600 for 1 year, then now you'll be renewing it. You renew each year $300. So it's half of the money each year now. It's more even. It evens out. It's more easier. But the first time you're going to pay 600 after passing the exam, and you are given, I think, 2 months maximum. If I'm not mistaken, yes, you're given like 2 months maximum to pay that money to FIFA. If not, you might get cancellation of your license. So those are one of the few challenges that if you're writing the exam, you need to register to prepare that, okay, to face that. On the average, how many easy questions are there before we skip the hard ones? No, because the way the exam comes is the easy question. Let's say, and you can be writing the exam. Let me give an example. And you can be writing the exam, but it becomes different. I have more difficult questions. You have more easier questions. So it's just about, because there's this box. Let's put it this way, that there are so many questions that the computer just selects this and send to this candidate, this and send to this candidate. So as I said, when I was writing, my friend, when we were discussing the questions, he he memorized all his questions because his question was just so easy. Well, like, for example, how long does it take for a maximum representation agreement? Those kind of basic questions. He had 4 or 5 of those questions. And I was like, oh my God, this guy is lucky. He's going to pass easily. Yeah, so those were the kind of questions he had. Whereas I had those questions that each word, they were very lengthy, that you have to read twice to be able to understand those questions. And luckily for me, that I had to prepare also a lot, and I had time to prepare because I wasn't doing anything. I had time, like 4 months, a lot to prepare continuously. So it gave me that time to master certain questions. If not, I wouldn't have coped because there were so many. My question was so lengthy that I remember one of my questions was this young student moving to Brazil to play ball. I mean, moving to Brazil not to play ball for academic reasons. Then the studies that he went there, he joined an academy, and as he joined an academy, they were not looking after him. There was no safeguard. There was no safeguard. No safeguard. They didn't provide. There was no education. There were a lot of difficulties actually for the child. So they were asking the answer they were asking me. Then they were asking, is this a safe environment for the child to study, and maybe if he wants to play for an academy, does it meet the requirement? Then they were giving other things, questions also, challenging things. So in essence, it was not the right environment. But what FIFA does sometimes is they make the question so lengthy that before you even read to come to the last part, you have forgotten the first what you read above. So now you have to go again to read to rethink. So this is just a process that's why I say you have to answer a lot of past questions and be familiar with a lot of questions to know, because there are a lot of people giving questions also there that are quite like easy questions. So you have to familiarize yourself with all sorts of questions that are lengthy questions. That's why sometimes when we're doing questions, I give you lengthy questions. I'm giving you just because in time also, when you face those kind of questions in the exam, you face questions that are challenging, that you read the first part, you read the first 3 lines, and then before you reach at the bottom, you may have forgotten what is this question actually about. That's why I said, what you need to know how to interpret question. That's going to help you, because when you learn how to interpret question, it becomes a little bit slightly easier. It becomes easier because now you have an idea of, when you read a question, you already know, okay, no, this is wrong, this is right. So that's one of the very important key also in the exam is you learn how to interpret a question. You really to know how to adapt and interpret it. Then it's going to help. But let's look at those questions that I checked. So question 2 was, when a player when applying for a football agent license, the applicant automatically agrees to comply with which regulations? A, only the FFAR. B, only the RSTP. C, FFAR, FIFA statutes, FIFA code of ethics, FIFA disciplinary code, and RSTP. Well, it's C, because you agree to comply with all those things. and D, only national association rules. So it's C. So when just to interpret or explain, when you're applying for your license, you agree to comply with FFAR, which is the FIFA Football Agent Regulation, the FIFA Statutes, which is like the first part of the study material, the FIFA Code of Ethics, which is also there, your FIFA Dictionary Code, and also the RSTP. So most of all these topics, or all these things you see here are under the study materials. I think you know that. Oh, okay, randomly picked. Yes, the questions are randomly picked by a machine and just sent to you to answer. So you might be writing, you have, you're going to have all different questions. You don't have the same question, so it's just randomly picked. CPD. What do you mean by CPD? Is continuous development. It's a program that CPD is a program that when you pass your license, FIFA gives you that FIFA, you have to pass it to be able to represent minor. If not, you cannot represent minor. Okay. Did you understand? Yes. So that's just what CPD means. That, and when you pass the CPD program now, then you are able to represent minor. Those are one of the things that you have to do after you pass your license. But I don't think the CPD is even something you need to worry on that, because it's not like an exam that you're going to face. It's something that you just need to do certain tasks. You just need to read those tasks and answer them. And it's like over like, is it 1 year? Yeah, for 1 year. You have some period of time that you just be reading and doing it gradually. But of course, if you want to start representing mine, let's take for example, because I was already like in the process of trying to look at minor to represent them. So when I passed my license, the first thing I was doing, like trying to do my CPT. So I went already into the platform trying to read and starting to go through it already, so that at least I can have that chance to represent minor. So question 3, which of the following individuals is not eligible to become a football agent? A retired professional. B, a person convicted of fraud or corruption. C, a university graduate. D, a former coach. So the answer is B, a person convicted of fraud and corruption. When you apply for your license, the license is going to be cancelled or not accepted. You're not going to meet past the eligibility requirement. So most of the time when people write register, when they you get this situation that they have to check through, they go through, these are the checks they are going through. They are trying to check your name, that do you meet, does your name have any complaint? Have you been going through, let's take for example, if you have been doing gambling, because those are the things that is challenging to do and I don't want to say challenging, those are the things that you're not going to meet eligibility if you actually you're doing gambling and they find out. Okay. And so there are a lot of things. And question 4, which of the following position makes a person ineligible to become a football agent? Okay. A, journalist. B, football fan. C, employer of FIFA, a confederation or a club. D, football player. Yes, is C. Okay, no, D was former player. So I repeat again because I have something to say about this. Which of the following positions make a person ineligible to become a football agent? A journalist. B, a football fan. C, employee of FIFA, a confederation, or a club. And D, former player. So the answer is C, which is employee of FIFA, a confederation, or a club. So this actually very important point, because I remember this because when I was trying to register for when I was registering trying to register for the exam and write, I got this information from FIFA, because by that time I was playing football with a club here in Finland. So I got this information from FIFA that you cannot write because your name has been registered. Your name is under the FIFA Football Association as a player. Okay, so I was confused. So those were, of course, I was having some knee injuries, but those were one of the things I said, oh no, I'm not playing football. I'm not getting a lot of joy from this. So I have to become an agent. Those were one of also the things that were in the background because when I went, I spoke now with the Finnish association, and then I had to make a choice because by then also I had a chance because the club I was with, I was also training young players. And then I had also the chance to do my UEFA license. So I was in this bubble, this situation, like, okay, I started my UEFA license already. Then they said, I got an information from FIFA, from a message from FIFA that you cannot be, if you want to become an agent, you cannot work with a club, you cannot be a player. So there were these restrictions, and I was thinking like, okay, this is so sudden. What do I do? So I was thinking like, okay, at least for the player, I can say, okay, I'm already struggling with my knee because my right knee, I had an ACL with my right knee. And I said, okay, that's easy. I'm almost finished. I don't want to do anything. I'm already studying a sport management, business management, because I was doing business management so that I can know the business side of football. Then the problem now was because I was already into halfway to my UFSA license. And after UFSA is UFB, and if you have UFB license, you have a chance to be an assistant coach of a professional club, something like that. And then after UFB, if you have UFA, you can manage top clubs. So I was in this thing and I was saying, okay, what do I do? But actually, I made a decision. I discovered that, okay, what are the chances for me being an elite coach or an elite agent? Those were my decisions. I started thinking, what are the chances of me being an elite coach or an elite agent? And then I was thinking, like, to be an elite coach, of course, I started already visiting some clubs. Then I had connections with them also, but I didn't really see myself like trying to pursue a career as a coach because I knew that to pursue a career as a coach is going to stop me on one place. Yeah. So my idea now started leaning towards the agent side. And then when I started also practicing the agent work, then I discovered that, oh, it's also something refreshing because your time is tied also to your hard work. So if you desire your freedom, but you do have to also put in a lot of effort. So that's one thing with the agent. If you can work hard and put in a lot of effort, then you get paid. Then let's say you can get paid to travel and just watch games. Let's take for example, if you have 4 or 5 players that are playing at a good level, you're a free person. You just need to go watch those players. They play, and you are adding scouting. Let me say scouting other players and bringing to your industry. There you're already on the way to success. Whereas because I was thinking all these things. Whereas as a coach, I was thinking like I don't want to wake up every day, go to the same location, coaching players. Of course, I coach still, but I coach not for my players, the people that are managing them, because I have the system that which is quite legal. That if I scout a player and I see that he's not up to the task, the team I want to take him, because of my experience having coached also, I said we still try to do one-on-one, which is normal. We start to do one. We try to do one-on-one coaching. If he's working on his finishing, scoring goals, if he's working on his technical ability, or if he's working on his fitness, based on those things. Because I studied also that at school and also did coaching. Also coaching, I used to coach young players for a team before when I was playing also. So it was part of my contract that when I was playing for a team in Finland, yeah, it was part of my contract that I'll be coaching, let me say, the under 12. And then I used to sometimes coach the under 15. So I had this contract. So that's where I also developed my coaching skills. But to cut the long story short, my idea became of I started becoming a FIFA or liking to become a FIFA agent based on these things I've just told you that. So you cannot be, now to come back to that question, you cannot work with any club if you're an agent. You cannot work with any club. You cannot be an employee because The reason why FIFA does this is that because I asked this question actually personally, personally, and the reason is because interest. You have personal interest. For example, if you're an agent and also playing for a club, it's only normal that at one point in time you want to bring all your players that they are under your agency to put in that specific club. So you see it now, you start developing, now you start doing things based on your personal interest. So that's why they said if you're an agent, you're an agent. You cannot be an agent and you're working for a club. So let's look at next. What CPD 12, 15, and 16, 23. No, I don't understand your question. Can you ask the question? You can type the question full. What do you mean CPD 12, 15, and 16? Can you just help type the question full and then I can answer? As I said, CPD it's a program that you learn that you develop when you're teaching. Not when sorry, it's a course or a program that you have to do when you pass your license. But the CPD helps you to have the authorization to manage minor. Minor is between the age of before you turn 18. So right now, when you have your license, you'll not be able to manage minor. You'll not be able to represent minor. So it's only after your CPD that you can represent minor. So that's the rules FIFA, because on the CPD program, FIFA talks a lot about how to minor because they are vulnerable. So FIFA try to tell you how you can look after them because they are still young, they are not mature. So all these things are in that program. That's why after you have your license, they still look after that. They still try to make you know that be very careful with minor. But let's say, but what about club agents? Club agent, are they FIFA licensed or not agent? What do you mean? What are club agents? No, a club agent is a FIFA licensed agent. Let me explain what it is. It's a licensed agent who is representing a club. But so let me explain. So let's take, for example, this under falls under, they call it like dual representation. Those things when we spoke about representation. I think what you're asking, you can read it under agent representation also on the FFAR. So an agent can represent a club in a transaction, but he cannot work for a club. You understand what I mean? Work for a club, which means is the club is paying you salary monthly. Yeah. But you can represent a club in a transaction, but you're a FIFA license agent. Yeah. So that's what I mean. So you can, if you want to have also an idea about this, you just go under representation under the FFAR. You're going to get some some ideas about this. But that's the answer to the question I gave you. I mean, answer to your question. Okay, let's look at question 5. What happens if an applicant performs football agent services without a license within the 24 months before applying? Okay, this is good also because let's take, for example, as you are like that, because now you're not an agent. So you are starting to represent players already. So this is the question that they're asking here, but I'm just trying to put it in normal terms. So now the situation is, if you do this, you will never get a license. But let's go through the answers. A, nothing happens. B, they receive a warning. C, they may fail the exam. D, they are not eligible to obtain a license. The answer is D. They are not eligible to obtain a license because once FIFA finds out that you have been acting as an agent, how would they find out? Let's take, for example, you went and represented and put your name on a transaction for a club, and then the club carried that information and registered it, not knowing that, thinking that you're a licensed agent, because sometimes clubs also are not really that sharp to think. So let's take, for example, you can take a player to a club, and whereas you're not an agent, this kind of thing that you just have a connection with a club. Then now, when that club is signing that, because under contract, the contract paper, there's always a place for the agent's name who represented the player. Those things are there. So if you go and put your name there and then carry your ID card and it's stamped on that place or every information. So now when that club carry, because when that club takes that document to also register to the association. So if FIFA comes across that document and then at one point in time you want say you want to be an agent, then they find out that you were already involved in the transaction without having the license. That is where you fail that eligibility requirement. You will not meet the requirement to become an agent. So those will be the problems for you. So it will be challenging for you to become an agent if this ever happens. So you'll be under big problem. So in essence, do not do that. In fact, in essence, do not do that, because if you're caught, you will not become an agent anymore. Okay, question 6. Who is responsible for investigating whether an applicant meets the eligibility requirement? This is a good question. A, the player national association. B, the club involved. C, the FIFA General Secretariat. D, the Confederation. So in things like the original that the FIFA is the FIFA General Secretariat. There's no club who is involved in this. It's actually FIFA, and it's a department under FIFA which is called the FIFA Secretariat, which is involved. So question 7: when must the annual license fee be paid after passing the exam? Okay, I think I explained this already to people. But let's see, A, within 30 days, B, within 60 days, C, within 90 days, and D, within 120 days. So, okay, here it shows within 90 days. If you pass the exam, which is 3 months, you have to already pay your license, which is 60 600,000 US dollars, as I paid 600,000 US dollars 2024. I think it's still the amount. So you have to pay 600,000 US dollars to FIFA the moment you pass your license. Pass your exam, and then you are free to represent players then. And then question 8, we have, what happens if the annual license fee is not paid within the required period? A, the license is suspended for 6 months. B, the license application is automatically declared void. C, the applicant must retake the exam. D, the license is transferred to the National Association. And you guys know the answer is B, which is sadly, the license application is automatically declared void, which is the most challenging thing, that if you write this exam, because the exam is really tough, if you write this exam and then you pass, then you're not able to maybe meet the financial requirement to pay the license, and then it gets cancelled, because chances show that even when in future you have the money, you might not pass the exam. Because that's one funny thing about the exam. I think I remember discussing this with one of my friends, because when I was preparing for the exam, I had been, because you try to ask information from people who have passed just to get idea when I was preparing, and then from the information I gathered also, and what I also saw, is that it's not a guarantee that you pass the exam, you can still go and you pass the exam again, because the rules of FIFA, the rules are always constantly changing, and you have to keep reading to refresh your brain for those rules. So, and if you don't keep reading, then you will not be able to meet up with the exam. So that things always evolving. Quick question: what is the ruling on the lawsuit on the FIFA agency service cap? I heard that the 5% and the 3% rule has temporarily been lifted globally. Yes, there have not been any decision yet. That's why I said in the beginning of I think if you look at the beginning of the FIFA study material, there's something like their rules are prohibited. The things are prohibited. Like, this is one of the things that also is prohibited still on the case of FIFA. They haven't made any decision on this. So the service cap, actually, right now, the way people work is that there's not actually a fixed service cap. But if you see the question and exam, I'll say yes, the 3 and the 5%, as you understand. But now there's no FIFA actually don't have anything like fixed. They haven't come up with anything like, hey, this is what agents take. This is what agent take. I give an example. I have a friend in Brazil who's an agent. he takes 7% when he represents his player, 7%. So, and I was on a meeting with let me say one of the sporting directors in Brazil, and in a club in Brazil, and we were just having a conversation, and he was saying that we're talking about this, and so now most of the time countries have different situation based on this, because FIFA has not actually made if decision based on this. And also it's not only this, there are a lot of few things. So, and this you can find also at the study beginning of the study material. This, what is why is my chair shaking a lot? This you can find at the beginning of the study materials, because there are a lot of things that there are a lot of things that you need to be aware of. But I don't think you have a question, as I made mention. I don't think you might have a question on this, because when there are certain things that FIFA has said that they are not coming, that you will not have an exam, the exam will not be based on this, they will actually strip it off the computer. So you most likely you will not have a question on this when FIFA already states that at the beginning of the study material. That's why it's always good to have the study materials, the recent ones, because they keep trying to adjust certain things based on the rules that have been implemented. And question 10, which is allowed to perform football agent service? Who is allowed to perform football agent services? A, anyone working as in an agency. B, only a licensed football agent. C, club directors. D, lawyers and accountants. So we know it's B, only a licensed football agent. So those are the that's the answer, B, only a licensed football agent. Although a lot of agencies have this problem. One question, they have this problem that they carry, that you bring someone into your agency who is based for, let me say, working like an accountant or whatsoever, maybe in charge of working on your finance, because to run a big agency, to run an agency, or if you want to become a successful agent, you need people that you lean on them. So for example, when you start developing your agency, if you have 5 players, I'm just giving an example, just 5 players, there are things that you cannot cope to manage a player. But many people might feel they might cope, but you cannot cope, because you cannot be traveling here and there if those, except those players are not playing good at big teams or high good level. So you might have a player in this country, in the country where you're living, you have a player in another country, you have another player in Europe, you have a player different places. Let's give an example like that. So, and for you to meet all the requirements of these players, you cannot just have phone calls with them. If not, your players will, you lose your players, because the way to maintain your players in the industry is that you have to have that connection with them naturally, that you can travel and sometimes not sometimes watch their games, have a conversation with them, sit with them, take them for a dinner, and they have a conversation. They feel you're present in their life. Then you people say, then you're keeping them updated. Like, okay, let's give an example. What agent always have when, let me see, their players are performing. Sometimes you have regular updates by visiting them, spending time in that city, and saying, okay, uh, now you're having 2 years uh, for your contract to expire with the club. We'll start looking for options in this country, depending on the age and whatsoever the player wants. So these are conversations that agents usually have, and you cannot have those just sit on your home. You can always sit in your home and have those conversations. So you have to move around, traveling, doing this. And just to have a story, just I met there was an agent, which actually very nice agent, a friend of mine actually, that I met him last summer in Finland. Yeah, last summer. So he usually take players to, let me say, have connection. Like he took a player to Chelsea Football Club. So he's a big agent actually. So, but he made me realize one thing, of one of a story that he said. He took 2 players to FC Copenhagen, good young players, talented players from Finland here, that he has scouted them. And when they were good, he took them to FC Copenhagen. And when he arrived at Copenhagen, when he arrived at FC Copenhagen, there was this thing that he was like feeling like he needed to be present in the player's life, but because he had other commitment with other players, after a year and a half, he got a message from the players that they won't really want to continue with him as an agent. So what he noticed is that when he went to those players to FC Copenhagen, he wasn't present in their life, in asking, in talking them, checking on them. How are they doing? How is their football? So the players probably maybe felt like they were not that close. And then another agent probably entered and was speaking to the players and saying, because that's how it happens in the football world, saying, telling them that, oh, you're good players. I'm going to take you probably to a Barcelona. What player every player wants to hear. You are playing at FC Copenhagen. I think your next move to be Barcelona. If another agent enters and start talking to your player like this and showing you already prospect that he is sending, that he has taken players to Barcelona, whereas you that have the players, you're not keeping communication with that with those players, most likely or not, when it's 6 months, because when it's 6 months to, because 6 months to your representation agreement with any player, that player is entitled to talk to another agent. So maybe before that 6 months, the player can already tell you that they want to go to a different direction, go in a different direction. They will not want to work with you again. So that's how the agency. So even part of being an agent is also trying to maintain relationship, build things. So those are the things that you need to face when you pass your when you pass your license, or you have your players. You have to, another thing also is keeping them. And the only way of keeping them also is that you have to have a lot of powerful networks, because players are almost like fish. Not don't bl- I'm not blaming the players. Also, I'm also blaming agent or clubs. It's a world that everyone is trying to be successful. So if you have the best network, players are going to run towards you. So that's why I see most players always want to get managed by the bigger agency, because they know that they are going to get bigger moves. So same like you, if you're a starting agent, you also need to have those networks. You have to build some network with some small clubs, or clubs at the level that you're working at, that it requires that when your player is playing at a level, you should always tell him that, oh, I am already preparing your next move. And these are the people I'm contacting, I'm working with them. Because once players are not seeing that, when someone approach them, they will gradually leave you and go to the other person, because they want to already secure their future. So that's how competitive it is. So if you're managing players, also you need to also be aware that you can do this. I mean that you can work on this a lot by building your network. That's why I said in the beginning that it's not the case. It's not to manage 5 players. One person cannot manage this thing. You need already group of people, and trust people to delegate those tasks. And those are the things that most, let me say, most agent, because I face that also. Those are the things that most agents face. Let's take, for example, I have a couple of young players that are talented players. What was the model that I'm putting them in, like professional academies? Because that's the model I'm trying to look at. 14, 15, 16, 14, 15. Now, when they're turning 16, in about a year, most of them will sign in professional. But also, I'm also aware that the more those players are getting, many like 10 something, I won't be able to. For example, I have a player in Coops who plays in Finland. I won't be able to, I have to travel next month to see him. He has been training. I was having a conversation with the parent that, okay, I have to travel to see him. It's not that far from me, so I can travel. But now, also, when the player moves to another city, country, and others that you're managing move to another country, you cannot do those travels all to yourself. You have to find people to also trust them to do, I mean, to be able to manage certain tasks in the agency, so that your job can be a little bit free to do certain things. If not, you spend more of the time trying to do a lot of things but going nowhere. Then your agency is just going to be stuck. So those are one of the things that also I got ideas from, let me say, talking to agents who have been in the industry a lot. But the idea, but because of maybe they saw that also I'm very useful to them, because of I know a lot of the rules and regulation. The thing I always try to, or maybe my connection with sporting directors, interviewing CEOs, it's easy for them to also connect with me because they feel I can provide value somehow, somewhere. Because the industry, as I said, in this industry, everyone is looking at each other person. You might ring an agent. The moment the agent knows that you're not providing value, he doesn't want to work with you. So that's how, but that generally that's just life, that everyone wants someone who provides value. It's like you also watching video most of the time, you want to have friends who provide value for you. Or if you're having a friend who doesn't provide value, at one point in time it becomes like a one-way friendship, which is the basic thing of life. That's why they always say your environment is the big thing. It's a huge part for you to succeed. So but anyway, let's not turn this into a motivational something. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of this tip. So okay, we did some FFAR. So tomorrow, maybe tomorrow we can do the topic we're doing, and then we do also RSTP questions more, and then we can also do FFAR. So yes, we can do more of the past questions as well. So we can end here, and then tomorrow we continue. Okay. If there's not any question, then I'll try to go now and have a rest so that tomorrow we can continue. Tomorrow 9:30 p.m. Eastern European time. Today I was a little bit late, as I said. My camera was, I don't just know what happened, but for some reason it couldn't come on. But I had to find a way that I have to come here. There were some technical issues, but nice. I solved it. But anyways, if there's no question, I'll try to go. At least we have answered most of some of your questions, and hopefully, if you didn't understand few things, as I said, don't hesitate, or you can post, and if you know the number, if you know where to always listen, you can just forward it and post and listen to that part. Yeah, it helps you. As I said, if you have been listening to this video from day one to now, I can guarantee you most of the majority of what I've been telling you, you will find most of those things also in the exam. Yeah, you'll find most of those things in the exam, but it's how you interpret and apply those questions, because we covered, just based on doing this thing, we have covered already RSTP, we have covered already FFAR, and I said that's 70% of the exam. Now the thing that then now is just for you to learn how to interpret questions, and also know how I think you have been speaking about the structure. You should know already about the structure of the exam already. The structure, uh, let's say 60 minutes. The exam is 60 minutes. Uh, each question for me, you shouldn't take more than 3 minutes on a question, and you should be able to learn how to, when you're answering a question, use the principle of elimination method. Let me say you start eliminating and you come to the right answer. And another thing for the exam is, when you're writing the exam, when you're answering the exam, if you approach any question, I discover, let's say you have your first 20 questions, you discover that question one is easy, you answer, you go to question two. If it's difficult, skip that question two and continue to question three. Answer as many as possible till the 20th question, then before coming back now to start looking at which one is difficult. Now you spend more time on it, because don't spend time going to answer probably if question two is challenging. I'm going to spend 5 minutes on it. And then you end up, maybe when you're answering question 15, they say time up. It shows that you have failed the exam already, because if you answer 15 questions, which many people do mistake because they are trying to answer gradually, and if you answer just 15 questions, you fail, because probably you have to have all those 15 to pass. So you have to be strategic. And this is what I say, you have to be strategic and know what to apply. That the moment the exam starts, you start looking at the questions that are easy, answering. And then now you come back, the ones that are challenging, now you start using the study materials, how to learn how to use it. You start learning how to find things. These are the ways you start to, if you use these methods, then you can even finish the exam within 35 minutes or 40 minutes. You're already done, and you're just doing your revision. But of course, you need to study also, because when I was writing the exam, I think I finished early. I was using the study material, because what I did was, the first thing I I was so focused. I just took answer the first question. The ones that were easier, I was answering them quick. Then I think I took like, is it around 22 minutes, and I was already done with most of the questions that I could answer off head. Off head means like there were questions I could, let me say, I could answer without, I don't need to do anything. I don't need to check somewhere or try to think, because they were just like easy questions that I've been reading and they have come. You understand what I mean? Then now the questions that also now were a little bit more lengthy and whatsoever, I took time now when I read, if I needed to refer to the study material, as I said, because I knew every topic and content of the study material. If, let's say, under the RSTP, I knew where to find if they said breach of transfer. I knew the first thing, because my target of using that book was, I knew how to use the book, how to use the book. I knew how to find RSTP. I knew how I could read a word and know that it's this thing is about FIFA status. This topic belongs to FFAR, because that's also one big thing. You can read a thing, but you don't know where these questions actually belong. Does it belong under the RSTP or whatsoever, or the FIFA status? So when you start knowing how to refer this, then it helps you more easier that you can just go to the table of content and find that thing and go to the exact page and locate your answer, read it, and come and pick the right one there. So when you use this method, it takes you it takes you less time. But if you don't know these things, then they even to use the book, you will not use the book because the book is so. You will not use the material because it's so bulky. You just have to do guesswork, and in an exam like this, you cannot do guesswork and pass. Okay, but anyways, let's continue tomorrow since we don't have any questions, and then we'll talk and we'll continue, and then we'll finish with the questions and answer as usual. So today we did extra of FFAR questions, so we can do the RSTP questions tomorrow more also. So we will do more questions. You can use CRTR plus F in the FIFA material to find the topic you are researching. Yes, control F, but the problem is, let's take for example, when you use control F to find the material, let's take for example, they say something under transfer, and because the control F, you can only use one listen, one only it picks one word. If you go and do transfer, let me say transfer system or whatsoever, let's just give an example, regulation. There are thousands of regulation, there are thousands of transfer. So those words, because the FIFA study material, the words are always repeating. So when you use Control F, and many people always say that when you use Control F, it gives you, let's say, 50 words. But what you will be doing now is you're going through maybe Control F for the first word was under, let's say, FIFA status. You start looking those words and coming gradually. Till you come and find, because you have to read all those things and come and find. Yeah. So it takes a lot of time when you use Control F. Whereas if you know how to interpret the question, because using Control F is nice, but you must know, let's say, you have to learn how to know where the material is. So if you read a question and you know that that material is under RSTP, if you use Control F, if you think for example transfer under RSTP, there are so many words, transfer. So you still have to use you still have to go through as reading those things gradually. And during the exam, you don't have time to read that because there's panic. When you start passing, doing those things, at one point in time, you say, no, I'm wasting time. You just go and do guesswork to get your answer. So that's the problem with Control F, because it doesn't give you the right answer. It gives you multiple words that you should go through screening them. So the first thing here is you have to know where that topic belongs using the table of content. If you can know where that topic belongs, then that's nice. Then secondly, now you have to know how to locate the question to be able to answer. Okay. So tomorrow we will do that, and just to finish on that, we are opening the course. This course I said I'm launching, I'm hosting is quite open already, and it starts 7th of April. We'll be doing 3 classes, 7th of April, 14th of April, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, 14th of April and 21st of April. So we have those three courses before you're writing on the 28th. I think most of you are writing on the 28th. I don't know if it's 28th, 29th, or 30th, but maybe I'm sure most of you will be writing 28th. Yes, before those days. Then after, and then we see again June. But after, of course, when you write, I'll still be here maybe talking already about different topics, networking and everything for you people. So after that you write, we'll still be doing live. I will keep on doing live because doing networking to teach you how to network different topics and whatsoever, how to sign your first player, anything, yes, based on and what I used to always go to interview CEOs, because you have to have a way to speak to be able to get interview, to network with them, interview CEOs, interview sporting director to be your connection, all those general things as a package to become an agent. We'll always try to discuss those things here on live, and then see how I can help you. When you become an agent, it's even much better, because if you become an agent, it's even much better, so that at least you can take those things to applying it into your day-to-day life. Okay, so take care and talk to you people, and bye for now. Okay, cheers.